This November, something massive just went down in the American court system. If you own a gun or care about Second Amendment rights, you need to pay attention because this is huge. A fresh court ruling just came out that might completely change how gun rights work in this country. Legal experts are already saying this is the biggest deal since Bruin happened. Things you believed were settled about carrying concealed weapons, getting background checks, and even what counts as a gun in the first place could be totally different now. This is not just talk or theory. This is actually happening right now. 7 completely new legal principles have basically been created, and they're already changing everything. No matter which side you're on, whether you want tighter gun laws or more freedom to own firearms, this decision is going to affect your life because the line between individual freedom and keeping people safe just moved, and nobody really knows where it's going to settle. So, what actually changed? What do these brand new principles mean for regular people like you and me? Before we get into the details of these 7 rules, I need you to do something really quick. Smash that like button right now if you care about protecting your Second Amendment rights. It only takes a second, and it makes a huge difference in getting this information out to more people who need it. Also, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future updates on your rights. Trust me, you're going to want to stay informed about this stuff. Early in November, a federal appeals court made a decision that basically redraws the line between what the federal government can control and what individual gun owners can do. The whole thing started with a challenge to current firearm rules. But here's what makes this ruling so controversial. It's not just about what the court said, it's about what they deliberately avoided saying. This is the first time since the Supreme Court made its landmark Bruin ruling back in 2022 that a lower court has flat out declared that several current gun laws can't survive under the new historical test the Supreme Court created. So, what are these 7 new principles coming out of this case? They're not officially written into any law yet, but every legal expert following the situation agrees that these ideas are now controlling how every single gun case will be decided moving forward. The first and most important change is this. What lawmakers intended to do with a law doesn't matter more than history anymore. For decades, courts looked at gun laws by asking if they made sense or if they helped protect public safety. That approach is finished. Now, judges have to compare every single regulation to how guns were treated historically in America's past. Basically, was there a similar law back in the 1700s or 1800s? If the answer is no, then the law is probably unconstitutional. That one change alone just threw modern gun control into complete disorder. The second principle that's emerging is about who gets to own guns. This court decided that sweeping bans on gun ownership, like the ones that apply to people convicted of nonviolent crimes or individuals who have restraining orders against them, might not be constitutional anymore. The reasoning is disturbingly straightforward. If those categories of people weren't restricted at the time our country was founded, how can the government justify restricting them today? This means thousands of existing legal cases could get reopened, and people who were previously banned from having guns might get that right back. It's deeply controversial. It's incredibly complicated, and it's already triggering lawsuits all across the country. The third principle focuses on where people can carry guns. After Bruin came down, a bunch of states quickly created lists of sensitive locations where carrying a firearm stayed illegal. Think schools, subway systems, government offices. But this new ruling knocked down parts of those laws, saying that states can't just declare modern locations as forbidden zones without historical evidence to back it up. So if you happen to live in New York, California, Illinois, or any other state that made carry laws stricter, this decision could send shockwaves through your local rules. Now here's where things get even more technical and even more important. The fourth principle deals with something called constructive possession. You might have heard this term before. It's when having certain gun parts could legally be treated the same as owning an actual firearm. The court just demolished that idea. They ruled that unless someone actually puts together or uses the part as a weapon, just having it doesn't count. That means the government's power to prosecute people based on parts or potential weapons just got dramatically reduced. Then we get to the fifth principle, which redefines what a firearm actually is. The court said the federal definition, especially when it comes to frames and receivers, was being stretched way too far. Homemade gun kits, or partially finished ones, which people often call ghost guns, might not qualify as firearms under federal law unless they're completely functional. People who oppose this ruling call it a gift to criminals who want untraceable weapons. People who support it say it brings back fairness and accuracy to a law that went too far. No matter what side you're on, the ATF's interpretation just took a serious hit. The sixth principle attacks federal enforcement power directly. The court determined that several enforcement policies created by federal agencies, including the ATF, don't have proper authorization from Congress. In simple terms, that means agencies can't just create or expand gun laws by themselves. Only Congress has that power. It's a huge blow to executive branch authority and a potential game changer for future presidents and their administrations. And the seventh principle is the one that might end up mattering most in the long run. Past court decisions aren't automatically respected anymore. Courts are now indicating that previous decisions that upheld certain restrictions might not count if they clash with this new historical tradition test. This means laws that survived legal challenges before, like red flag laws, magazine capacity limits, and even waiting periods, are all vulnerable again. Every single one of them could face fresh legal challenges, and many of them will probably be struck down. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, wait, how can one court case change all of this? You're definitely not alone. That's the question everyone's asking. The answer comes down to how the Supreme Court's Bruin decision completely rewired the test that courts have to use. This new ruling just took that reasoning to its absolute furthest point. By doing that, it opened the floodgates for a wave of challenges that could completely redefine what reasonable regulation even means anymore. So where does all this leave us right now? At this moment, legal experts can't agree. Some of them say this is a correction that's been needed for a long time, return to what the Constitution originally meant. Other experts are warning that it's a disaster waiting to happen that could make it nearly impossible for law enforcement to do their jobs. Picture a world where each state, each county has to justify its gun laws using examples from the 1700s. There were no police background checks back then. There were no modern assault-style weapons. So how are we supposed to interpret that for today? The courts haven't provided a clear answer. And yet underneath all the legal theory, there's a deeper problem that's cultural. Because when rulings like this come down, they don't just change laws. They reshape how people feel about safety, freedom, and whether they can trust the system. For some people, this ruling feels like freedom. It's proof that government overreach is finally being controlled. For other people, it's frightening. It's a signal that we're going backwards in time, removing protections that keep communities safe from violence. But here's the reality. Both perspectives have legitimate points. And that's exactly what makes this moment so volatile. Every time a case like this gets decided, the boundaries between state power and individual liberty shift just a bit more. If you step back and look at the bigger picture, you can see a pattern developing. The courts are slowly taking apart the modern gun control system piece by piece. Not through Congress, not through elections, but through legal reinterpretation. And whether you agree with it or not, that's where the real power is sitting right now. So what comes next? Most analysts are expecting this ruling will get appealed to the Supreme Court. And if the highest court decides to take it, this could become the most significant Second Amendment case in over a decade. But here's what's even more fascinating. Several other cases around the country are already using this ruling as precedent in their own arguments. That means this isn't some isolated incident. It's the first piece to fall in a much bigger chain reaction. If you're someone who owns guns, these changes could impact how you store them, carry them, or even build them. It could affect what permits you need or don't need anymore. It could also transform how states enforce red flag laws and how judges decide whether someone can have their guns taken away after a misdemeanor. Every single one of those decisions now has to pass through this new historical filter. That's not a minor thing. That's enormous. And yet with all this legal commotion, there's a human element we absolutely cannot ignore. Behind every ruling are families, victims, and regular citizens who all want the exact same thing. They want to feel safe and respected under the law. That's why this discussion can't only be about rights or restrictions by themselves. It has to be about finding balance. Are we building a society where freedom and safety can exist together? Or are we forcing people to pick one over the other? So here's the question worth thinking about. Is this ruling bringing back American liberty, or is it a dangerous reversal of common sense protections? Because depending on how the next few months play out, that answer could shape the next decade of American law. This November decision didn't just redefine gun rights. It redefined the entire conversation. And the 7 principles that came from it are now resonating in every courtroom and every state legislature across the country. The impact of this ruling will be felt for years to come, affecting everything from local gun regulations to national policy debates. Whether this represents progress or regression depends entirely on your perspective, but one thing is certain. The landscape of gun rights in America has fundamentally shifted, and everyone needs to understand what that means for the future. If you found this information valuable, do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It helps get this critical information in front of more gun owners who need to know about these changes. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on your rights. Share this video with every gun owner you know because this information is too important to keep to yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.